Chapter 11. Yuan Qing and the old flame demon ghost circled the entire mountain and looked at it for a long time. Finally, they chose a rock wall that appeared as though a large hand had forcefully dug out a portion of the rock and could only allow one person to rest. The two of them stood side by side in the air, forming a pincer attack. However, the two of them tacitly left a distance of dozens of feet between them. The three avatars beside Yuan Qing surrounded him in the middle, forming a perfect defensive formation. This caused the eyelids of the old flame demon ghost, who was not far away, to twitch. However, he could only helplessly glance at Yuan Qing, maintain a good distance from him, and ignore him. After the two of them repeatedly investigated, they found that the seal in the sunken area was the weakest. Perhaps it was because that almighty person often came to check and rest. After the two of them investigated, they both agreed that this was the most suitable place to break the seal. Yuan Qing glanced at the old flame demon ghost from the corner of his eyes. Seeing that he did not do anything, he shifted his gaze to the cliff. He hesitated for a moment before moving. With a thought from Yuan Qing, one of the three avatars instantly shot towards the cliff. In the end, it heavily collided with the cliff with a bang. Immediately, the entire mountain shook violently. Yuan Qing watched all of this with a smile. He felt that the seal was only so-so. The old flame demon ghost needed to go through so much trouble to work together with him to break it. However, Yuan Qing's expression suddenly became grave in the next moment. The seal on the mountain has the effect of reflecting attacks. One could see that the avatar that had been sent out by Yuan Qing was in a battered state as it shot backwards. Its originally solid body had also become illusory. Its miserable appearance caused the old flame demon ghost by the side to release a mocking laugh from its mouth. "You clearly knew about this reflecting seal. Why didn't you tell me? Don't forget that if my avatar's energy is exhausted, I am not confident that I can break the seal. At that time, not only will we not be able to obtain the treasure in this mountain, we will also provoke an extremely powerful almighty person. For the sake of our lives, I advise you to not play any tricks with me. Otherwise, I will leave immediately." Yuan Qing glanced at the avatar that had become illusory. He turned his head and roared furiously at the old flame demon ghost with bloodshot eyes. The flame demon ghost laughed coldly when he saw this. "Old Yuan Qing, you are in the wrong. I originally wanted to warn you when you ordered your incarnation to attack the rock wall. However, who could have imagined that you would act so quickly? Your incarnation had already flown away before I could warn you. How can you blame me for this? If you really wish to give up on this icy fire vermilion fruit, I will not force you. You can leave. At worst, I will call my subordinates over and use their lives to exchange for this icy fire vermilion fruit. That can be considered their blessing." Ha 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 ha. The old flame demon ghost knew that Yuan Qing had been stuck at his current cultivation level for many years. As a result, his tone did not soften at all. Instead, it seemed as if he did not care at all. Yuan Qing's face turned red from anger when he heard these words. His eyelids twitched wildly as his old eyes widened to the size of copper bells. However, he did not say anything in the end. There was no point in saying anything more. Moreover, he had been completely suppressed by the other party and no longer had the deterrence he had before. It looked like he could only temporarily cooperate with the other party and break through this reflecting seal first. As long as the seal was broken, ha ha ha, then he could only resign himself to fate. If there is anything else you know, it is best that you tell me as soon as possible. Otherwise, if the both of us are on guard, how will we be able to obtain the treasures in this mountain? Therefore, I hope that you will not hide anything from me. Otherwise, I will leave immediately. At worst, I will just have to give up one ice fire vermilion fruit." Yuan Qing thought about the future in his heart as he pretended to be furious as he spoke to the flame demon ghost. How could the old flame demon ghost not tell? As a result, he agreed a few times and began to break through the seal on the mountain with Yuan Qing. Xiao Yan watched the two of them below quarrel and argue for half a day. In his heart, he had been thinking about how he could have the opportunity to investigate this mountain peak that gave him a somewhat familiar feeling. Now that the two of them had finally come to an agreement, Xiao Yan watched the two of them slowly approach the enormous mountain. At this moment, All of their attention was placed on the rock wall. Xiao Yan saw that this was a great opportunity to investigate. As a result, Xiao Yan carefully expanded his soul force, forming tiny strands that slowly approached the cliff face above the two of them. As expected, Xiao Yan discovered a thin, invisible barrier of light on the mountain after probing with his powerful soul force. It enveloped the entire mountain without any openings. However, just as Xiao Yan's spiritual strength was about to touch the thin energy curtain, Xiao Yan realized that there was an extremely wild and violent energy that contained an icy cold energy within the heat of the energy curtain. This kind of energy was the energy that Xiao Yan was most familiar with. This kind of wild and violent energy belonged to only one kind of natural spiritual object in this world, Xiao Yan's spiritual strength, spiritual object. This is the power of a heavenly flame. But how can a heavenly flame have such a powerful and violent energy? Could it be that this heavenly flame has existed for 1,000 years, or even longer? Xiao Yan sensed the familiar aura that was transmitted from the energy light curtain. He thought with incomparable shock in his heart. No wonder there is an aura that both Huo Yi and I find familiar. It is actually transmitted from this Doqi light curtain. From the powerful aura emitted from the barrier of light, the heavenly flame definitely possessed its own intelligence. But since that was the case, why did the heavenly flame seal itself here? Under Xiao Yan's careful observation, he realized that this barrier was clearly used to seal something. Moreover, the aura of the seal originated from the heavenly flame. It was obvious that the heavenly flame in this place had sealed him. This was because if the heavenly flame were to become angry, it would definitely not seal the target of its anger to give it an opportunity to escape. Instead, it would use the most direct and vicious method to completely blast the target into nothingness. However, under the probing of Xiao Yan's spiritual strength, the aura of this restriction light curtain clearly belonged to a kind of heavenly flame. This also meant that there was a heavenly flame spirit that had taken form within this mountain. For some unknown reason, it had sealed itself in this place. It seems that the heavenly flame discovered by these two people is not simple. Perhaps it is a heavenly flame that has undergone some changes. Tisk tisk, such a powerful treasure of the world can only be sealed here. It really makes one feel that it is a waste of a treasure. From the looks of it, only the person from the Soul Clan who calls himself the Ghost Temple sect knows what is inside this mountain. Since that is the case, ha 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 ha. Xiao Yan actually let out an evil laugh when he thought of this. He was almost discovered by Yuan Qing and Huo Yi. But fortunately, nothing happened in the end. Otherwise, he would be in danger. After Xiao Yan calmed his mind, he attached a thread of soul force to the barrier. After which, he closed his eyes and quietly waited for news from the two people below. Chapter 12. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth revealed a smile amidst a thunder-like explosion. He slowly opened his eyes and looked down. They've finally broken through the rebounding restriction. Xiao Yan watched the scene below indifferently. A moment ago, the moment that Xiao Yan had been waiting for had finally arrived. In the previous moment, Yuan Qing's face suddenly changed as he used all his strength to break through the rebounding restriction. He forcefully turned around in the air and threw a palm strike towards a certain spot in the air. The two remaining clones to his left and right also hurried towards him. In the end, Yuan Qing's hand heavily collided with a skinny hand that had suddenly appeared in the air. After a few seconds, a violent explosion rang out beside the two of them. At that moment, the two of them were only several meters away from the cliff face. Yuan Qing and the old flame demon ghost were at the center of the explosion, so they were naturally the most injured. When the two clones exploded, a shocking storm of energy swept through the forest. The two of them were blown away by the force, and the restriction on the cliff face began to tremble. It seemed like the entire mountain would collapse with a single strike. It seemed extremely dangerous. In the next moment, Yuan Qing's body heavily collided with the barrier of light that was already on the verge of collapse. With a clear sound like glass shattering, the barrier of light that had displayed great might earlier shattered at that moment. However, even with that being the case, the rebounding force from the barrier of light when it collided with Yuan Qing's body still caused Yuan Qing's injuries to worsen. On the other hand, although the flame demon ghost who had clashed with Yuan Qing's palm earlier was also injured, his injuries were nothing compared to Yuan Cheng's. Yuan Cheng looked at the old flame demon ghost that was slowly walking towards him. He continued to spit out blood from his mouth. However, he still cursed with scarlet eyes. At this moment, Yuan Cheng no longer possessed the sage-like appearance he had before. His green clothes were in tatters, and a large hole had even appeared on the back of his green robe. The exposed skin on his back had been rubbed until it was dripping with blood. One could even vaguely see the dense white bones underneath. His face was covered in blood, and traces of blood dripped down from his lips, dyeing a large portion of his green robe red. His snow-white hair danced in all directions, and a few strands of snow-white silver hair stuck to Yuan Cheng's blood-covered face, causing him to appear extremely ferocious and terrifying. He gave off a chilling feeling that originated from one's heart. KKKK, old man Yuan Cheng, how does it feel to be hit by my demonic cloud heaven swallowing palm? The old flame demon ghost walked closer to Yuan Cheng one step at a time. Waves of ridicule were emitted from his mouth as he looked at Yuan Cheng in a daze. At this moment, over half of the black fog around the old flame demon ghost's body had disappeared, revealing a shriveled body. However, his face was filled with an expression of victory. Each step he took appeared to be stepping on Yuan Cheng's heart, causing Yuan Cheng to feel a kind of fear from within his heart. He did not dare to move even a little. Xiao Yan, who was in the sky, watched all of this with a calm expression. The dou qi within his body continued to circulate within his veins. His body leaned forward slightly as his eyes stared intently at the old flame demon ghost. He was prepared to attack at any moment. When one reached an expert of their level, one's perception was already extremely powerful. If one did not have sufficient confidence, no one would easily launch a sneak attack. This was because no one could be certain that the person whom one had launched a sneak attack on did not have any other tricks up his sleeves. Perhaps the other party had already discovered him the moment he attacked. In that case, even if one sneak attack was successful, it would not be of much use. This was because the other party would not allow one to succeed since they had already discovered one. The old flame demon ghost was still slowly advancing toward Yuan Cheng. He appeared to really enjoy this kind of psychological suppression of his enemy, causing him to feel fear. 30 feet. Finally, the old flame demon ghost was only a short 30 feet away from Yuan Cheng. At this moment, Yuan Cheng had already gradually become numb to the frightening pressure of the old flame demon ghost. He slowly raised his head and his eyes calmly looked at the old flame demon ghost who was only 30 feet away from him. That expressionless manner caused the old flame demon ghost's slowly advancing footsteps to become a little sluggish. Immediately, a fury surged into his heart. He had actually been frightened by a person who was about to die. His footsteps suddenly increased and he arrived in front of Yuan Cheng within a couple of breaths. Tisk 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 tisk, old fellow Yuan Cheng, it is likely that you were still thinking about how to kill me after breaking the seal. Unfortunately, the old me was a little earlier than you. Tisk 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 tisk. The old flame demon ghost extended his hand and a 3-foot-long ink-black sword appeared in his hand. Both of his hands held the hilt of the sword tightly as he slowly raised the sword above his head. Both of his eyes stared at Yuan Cheng. His eyes were filled with a rich bloodthirst as the long sword in his hand suddenly hacked downward. Xiao Yan grasped the opportunity and immediately dove down. At the same time, he also used the mysterious fire finger. At this moment, the old flame demon ghost was about to kill Yuan Cheng. However, just when the ink-black longsword was less than a foot away from Yuan Cheng's head, the old flame demon ghost suddenly forcefully twisted his wrist and blocked above his head. The old flame demon ghost's temporary defense did not have much of an effect. After blocking for an instant, the ink-black longsword in the old flame demon ghost's hand broke with a clear breaking sound. Xiao Yan's powerful finger paused for a moment before continuing to charge toward the old flame demon ghost. The old flame demon ghost's expression was grave as he sensed the terrifying and dangerous aura that was heading toward him. He could clearly sense the extraordinariness of this attack. If the attack in front of him really struck his body, it was likely that he would be seriously injured even if he did not die. At that time, once he was seriously injured, he would have to face a choice between life and death. The old flame demon ghost had cultivated for so many years in exchange for his lifespan. How could he let it go so easily? Since he could not let it go, he could only give up on some things. From the looks of it now, it was impossible to dodge this whatever mysterious Fire Finger attack. He had already been locked onto by the mysterious Fire Finger's aura. Therefore, the only thing he could do now was to try his best to avoid being hit in his vital spots. The old flame demon ghost's expression was grave as he looked at the mysterious Fire Finger that was swiftly approaching him. His body suddenly twisted in the air and he successfully avoided being hit in his vital spots. Immediately, the old flame demon ghost's dodging body paused. Only then did he react. However, it was already too late. When experts exchanged blows, victory or defeat was determined in an instant. Therefore, in the next moment, accompanied by the sound of a body being penetrated, the old flame demon ghost's expression became distorted as he cried out in pain. His body was sent flying by the huge impact. His body stuck close to the ground, leaving behind a skid mark that was several hundred meters long. Along the way, he even broke several huge ancient trees. In the end, he violently collided with the rock wall, only stopping when his body was embedded into the hard rock wall. Xiao Yan quietly stood in the same spot. He glanced at Yuan Qing, whose face was filled with gratitude as he used medicinal pills to recuperate. After which, he looked in the direction of the old flame demon ghost with an expression of anticipation. Although the old flame demon ghost had indeed been struck by Xiao Yan's mysterious Fire Finger and had even broken several dozen ancient trees along the way, his physical body was already incomparably tough after reaching his level of strength. These injuries were merely superficial wounds to him. As long as he was allowed to recover for a period of time, he would naturally make a complete recovery. Stone fragments shot in all directions, bringing with them a grey fog. A breeze blew past and the grey fog scattered, revealing a slightly weak human figure. With the old flame demon ghost's physical cultivation, there should have been no need for this. However, he had been injured by Yuan Qing's two avatars before and had to endure Xiao Yan's mysterious Fire Finger. As a result, he appeared a little weak. At this moment, the old flame demon ghost's black robe was completely shattered. Over half of the black-colored fog surrounding his body had also scattered, revealing the actual body of the old flame demon ghost that was originally hidden within it. His actual body appeared as skinny as firewood. His skin was shriveled. On his right shoulder, there was a thumb-sized charred black hole that had clearly been burned by fire. There was even a faint smell of charred meat being emitted from it. The old flame demon ghost was surprised as he glanced at the wound on his right shoulder. The injury that he had imagined did not arrive as expected. Seeing that he had not suffered much of an injury, the old flame demon ghost immediately relaxed. He thought that this person's attack was only so-so and was merely putting on an empty show of strength. His face was filled with ridicule as he looked at Xiao Yan in the distance, who had been observing him. Only when he saw the cold smile on Xiao Yan's face did he suddenly sense that something was not quite right. In the next instant, an intense explosion was suddenly emitted from the old flame demon ghost's body. Immediately, he shot backwards as if he had suffered a heavy blow, vomiting blood. With a bang, he once again fell into a pile of rocks, unable to move. Chapter 13. At this moment, Yuan Qing, who had heard the commotion, also woke up from his recovery state. After which, he looked at Xiao Yan standing by the side and stood up with a face full of gratitude. He cupped his hands together and bowed respectfully to Xiao Yan. He said, "Thank you for saving my life. Yuan Qing is extremely grateful to you." Yuan Qing was naturally able to guess that Xiao Yan was definitely hiding nearby earlier. However, it was Xiao Yan who had saved him. Yuan Qing naturally could not say anything. Hence, he opened his mouth and asked, "May I know your name?" Yuan Qing had yet to finish speaking when he suddenly felt that such a direct question was not too appropriate. Hence, he quickly followed up with a somewhat flattering tone, "The old me believes that I know quite a number of members of large clans on this continent. However, seeing that you have reached such a level at such a young age, I am really a little curious as to which faction you belong to. Hence, I hope that you will forgive me for being presumptuous." Xiao Yan smiled and replied to Yuan Qing's thanks. When he heard Yuan Qing's question, he smiled and said, "KK, old brother's words are a little funny. Honestly speaking, I am Xiao Yan. I have just arrived at this place when I saw that there was a Douqi fluctuation in this place. Hence, I came here out of curiosity. Earlier, I saw that this fellow who was neither human nor ghost wanted to kill old brother. Hence, I attacked and forced him back. This was merely something I did in passing. It is nothing. These words were nothing in Yuan Qing's ears. After all, the two of them had just met. It was already not bad that Xiao Yan did not take advantage of the other. Hence, the two of them merely exchanged a few flattering words with each other. However, when Xiao Yan told Yuan Qing his name, it was also heard by the old flame demon ghost who had just come out from the rock pile. Immediately, the eyes of the old flame demon ghost widened. His face was shocked as he looked at Xiao Yan. He repeatedly panted from his mouth and nose. His scarlet eyes revealed a greed and bloodthirstiness. The old flame demon ghost stared at Xiao Yan with wide, scarlet eyes, fearing that Xiao Yan would run away. With a bloodthirsty voice, it called out loudly, "Xiao Yan? You said you were Xiao Yan, right? GGGG. You're finally here. You really made me wait for a long time." Xiao Yan frowned after hearing these words. For some unknown reason, he felt as though he had stepped into a huge trap the moment he uttered those words. A faint feeling of danger surged from deep within his heart. Moreover, for some unknown reason, his heart actually recalled Han Tiandi, whose soul had already been destroyed. This caused Xiao Yan to feel quite strange. It was as though the path in front of him had already been planned by someone. This caused Xiao Yan's gaze to automatically become even colder as he looked at the old flame demon ghost. The old flame demon ghost's body moved. He instantly flashed to Xiao Yan's left side. His hand suddenly struck towards Xiao Yan's head. Xiao Yan also threw a punch with his right hand and met the old flame demon ghost's attack head-on. Xiao Yan and the old flame demon ghost's fist collided. Waves of churning air waves spread from their palms. Traces of spatial crack lines also appeared in the empty space. The ground under their feet also cracked an inch at a time. A spider web-like crack line that was a couple of feet in size spread. Even the tall mountain by the side shook a little. Xiao Yan and the old flame demon ghost's fists separated upon contact. Xiao Yan continued to stand in the same spot. The ground under his feet had already turned into a thick layer of dust. His feet would sink deeply into the ground when he stepped on it. Hence, Xiao Yan could only stand in the empty space. The old flame demon ghost, who had collided with Xiao Yan, was forced back several hundred steps before forcefully coming to a stop. His face was grave as he looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing in the empty space. He had been suppressed from the beginning to the end in the previous attack. It did seem that he had indeed attacked first and had taken the initiative. However, only when he felt the strength of Xiao Yan's fist did he understand what it meant to take the initiative. Under Xiao Yan's absolute strength, even if he and Yuan Qing joined hands, they might not be able to deal with him. The old flame demon ghost thought for a while. Finally, he appeared to have made a great decision as his mouth emitted an explosive roar, mysterious underworld soul devouring palm. The shriveled body of the old flame demon ghost suddenly moved. His body flashed and appeared high in the sky. Both of his hands swiftly formed some seals with lightning-like speed. Following waves of energy ripples that were emitted, one could see the black-colored fog around the old flame demon ghost's body, which had already mostly disappeared from the fight, once again rose. It spread around the old flame demon ghost's body, forming a layer of thick protective barrier that completely protected the old flame demon ghost within it. However, this was not the end. The seals in the old flame demon ghost's hands continued to change. However, the speed of the changes between his fingers this time around was much faster compared to before. However, the old flame demon ghost had used some unknown method to instantly raise his speed. One could tell just how high the price was just by looking at his repeatedly trembling body. When Xiao Yan sensed the doqi ripple that was faintly being emitted from the seals, his entire expression instantly became solemn. Clearly, this was an extremely powerful do skill. Unfortunately, although the distance between Xiao Yan and the old flame demon ghost was not considered far, with the speed of the old flame demon ghost, it was likely that the other party would have already prepared a feast and was waiting for him by the time he charged over. The old flame demon ghost looked at the do skill that was about to succeed. The corner of his mouth carried a cruel and bloodthirsty smile. The next moment, his body suddenly charged explosively towards Xiao Yan and Yuan Qing. Xiao Yan watched the old flame demon ghost approaching. The solemn expression on his face suddenly disappeared. Replacing it was actually a worry and worry. Xiao Yan turned his head and glanced at the ashen-faced Yuan Qing by the side. His body moved and the two of them disappeared from the spot. They appeared 100 feet away and set up a Douqi barrier in front of them. Yuan Qing sized up Xiao Yan, who was wearing snow-white clothes, somewhat strangely. His heart was filled with questions. Was there any difference between where he was and where he was earlier? The old flame demon ghost, who was less than 10 feet away from Xiao Yan, paused in the air. The repeatedly changing seals in his hands suddenly became chaotic. In an instant, an extremely wild and violent energy storm that contained some spiritual strength suddenly struck the Douqi light barrier that Xiao Yan had set up. The light barrier trembled repeatedly and emitted waves of buzzing sounds. However, just as Xiao Yan was about to remove the Douqi light barrier to check the situation outside, an accident suddenly occurred. A heart-piercing pain that caused Xiao Yan to have a splitting headache was emitted from deep within his spiritual essence. The Huoyi that Xiao Yan had originally kept into his body had also appeared from within Xiao Yan's body at this moment. The two of them hugged their heads and cried out. However, Xiao Yan was at the very least an expert whose spiritual strength had entered the state. He was also an alchemist. This little bit of pain was quickly eliminated by Xiao Yan using his powerful spiritual strength after he reacted. Xiao Yan looked at the Huoyi and Yuan Qing who were repeatedly crying out in pain on the ground. He frowned and suddenly waved his sleeve. A majestic spiritual strength struck the two of them. The two of them finally gradually recovered. Before Yuan Qing had completely recovered, Xiao Yan had once again kept the Huoyi into his body. After all, the Huoyi was a spirit that was born from nature. If others were to find out about it, it would unavoidably lead to trouble. However, when Yuan Qing recovered, Xiao Yan was greatly shocked. At this moment, Yuan Qing, who had awakened, had an illusory feeling all over his body. If it were not for Xiao Yan's powerful spiritual strength, he would have mistaken him for Yuan Qing's incarnation. Xiao Yan's face was stunned as he looked at Yuan Qing, who appeared to have his soul out of his body. He naturally knew that this was definitely not an out-of-body experience. This was because there was no such thing as an out-of-body experience for a cultivator. If one insisted that it existed, it could only be the spiritual strength that a cultivator emitted to understand the situation around them. The current situation of Yuan Qing was either like the incarnation of half of the 9 transformation body skill or a situation where the soul of some powerful cultivators had an out-of-body experience when their physical body was dead but their soul essence was still intact. Xiao Yan stared at Yuan Qing. Just when he wanted to ask something, he saw Yuan Qing take out a jade bottle from his spatial ring in a hurry. With a single movement, he vanished into the jade bottle. Xiao Yan stared blankly at everything from beginning to end. Only when Yuan Qing vanished from sight and only left behind a jade bottle did he blink a few times. The jade bottle actually flew towards Xiao Yan of its own accord, landing in his hand in the end. Afterwards, a weak voice rang out from the bottle. Yuan Qing said, "Xiao Yan, I hope you can temporarily store my spiritual strength in your spatial ring for safekeeping." "Thank you." Before Xiao Yan could reply, the voice vanished once again. Yuan Qing's spiritual strength had temporarily fallen into a deep slumber. He opened his eyes and stared for a long time. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he could only helplessly sigh. He put the jade bottle into his bosom and ignored it. Immediately, he turned his head to look at the black figure lying in the ruins. The old flame demon ghost's body once again appeared amidst the sound of rocks shattering. He had just appeared when he spat out a couple of mouthfuls of fresh blood. His entire body appeared to be on the verge of collapse, as though he could die at any moment. The old flame demon ghost's scarlet eyes were filled with a vicious expression as he stared at the black flame human figure lying on the ground without moving 30 feet away from Xiao Yan. This person was He Yan, who had arrived earlier than Xiao Yan. It was this fellow's sudden appearance earlier that caused the old flame demon ghost to fail in using the Do technique, causing it to suffer a backlash from the Do technique and be seriously injured. Currently, Xiao Yan was fine, but the old flame demon ghost was seriously injured and could no longer fight. It was basically impossible for him to capture Xiao Yan alive and bring him back to exchange for a reward. Therefore, he could only send the news of Xiao Yan's arrival to the Ghost Slaughter sect and see if he could exchange it for something useful. Thinking in this manner in his heart, the old flame demon ghost took advantage of the time when Xiao Yan was checking on He Yan's injuries to quickly flee from this place with a heart filled with vicious hatred. Chapter 14. Xiao Yan looked at He Yan, who was floating in the air in front of him. He involuntarily sighed quietly in his heart. This fellow had actually received an all-out attack from an elite Dodi in order to become an Di. Moreover, he had succeeded. Although it was mainly because the mysterious underworld soul-devouring palm had failed to be unleashed in the end, this was already sufficient to cause one to feel shocked. He Yan had actually used the strength of a 9-star Do Sheng to block a Do Di. Moreover, he had succeeded even though he ended up being seriously injured. This did indeed cause one to feel disbelief. However, the truth was also undeniable. From this, one could tell that Xiao Yan was not unprepared when he brought Yuan Qing to a spot 100 feet away from his original position. He had done so on purpose to attract the attention of the old flame demon ghost. Moreover, this was the safest empty spot that Xiao Yan could choose a moment ago. On one hand, it was for his own safety. On the other hand, it was to attract the old flame demon ghost over and create a good opportunity for He Yan. When Xiao Yan had just moved, the old flame demon ghost had indeed hurriedly chased after him with the intention of killing Xiao Yan. He Yan was able to take advantage of this situation where the old flame demon ghost's mind was unstable. His body merged into empty space and in the blink of an eye, he had completely sealed the space around the old flame demon ghost. After which, he removed the knot in the old flame demon ghost's heart with great difficulty. Fortunately, the old flame demon ghost's soul-stirring attack had ultimately failed because of He Yan. Therefore, it would not be an exaggeration to use the word heaven-defying to describe him. Actually, all of this was something that Xiao Yan and He Yan had agreed on beforehand. Although time was tight back then, how could a conversation between experts take so long? This fellow had very directly told Xiao Yan that he would help him block this attack. This was because He Yan had already seen that even someone as strong as Xiao Yan instantly revealed an incomparably grave expression when he saw the old flame demon ghost's attack. Of course, He Yan would definitely not make a losing deal. The price he had to pay for helping Xiao Yan block this attack was for Xiao Yan to help him successfully break through the shackles between the Do Sheng and Do Di to become an elite Do Di. Of course, if Xiao Yan was unwilling, it was naturally possible for He Yan to forcefully receive the full strength of that attack. However, the consequence of doing so was that Xiao Yan would definitely reveal all of his trump cards. In the end, he might not even be able to completely block that attack. Moreover, at this moment, Xiao Yan was still carrying the jade bottle that contained Yuan Qing's spiritual essence. Without the isolation of the storage ring, who knew if Yuan Qing had already awoken and was quietly waiting for him to finish off the old flame demon ghost. After which, He Yan would give him a heavy final blow and reap the benefits. If that happened, Xiao Yan would really be in for a tragedy. He would become the first elite Do Di in the history of the Do Chi continent to be killed by a seriously injured spiritual body. At that time, Xiao Yan's name would really go down in history. This fellow He Yan. An ordinary person would be so frightened that they would flee in all directions when they saw an elite Do Di attack. However, this fellow just had to go and block an elite Do Di's attack. Moreover, it was an all-out attack from an elite Do Di. Moreover, He Yan was actually still alive under such circumstances. This caused Xiao Yan to feel helpless for a long time. However, he could only let out a sorrowful sigh. Why was it that he did not have such good luck? Even if his actual body was the nihility devouring flame that could swallow everything in the world, even if he was the darling of the heavens and received the protection of the heavens, this was still a little too exaggerated. That was at the very least an all-out attack from an elite Do Di. Yet, it was actually forcefully broken by him in this manner. Even Xiao Yan could not help but feel admiration for He Yan's courage at this moment. He even felt a little jealous. After Xiao Yan consumed a medicinal pill to treat He Yan's injuries, he kept He Yan in his body like a fire charm. After all, He Yan's injuries were really too serious. It would be extremely difficult for him to recover without a period of time. Moreover, the main injury to He Yan this time around was his spiritual essence. Fortunately, He Yan's spiritual strength had already advanced to this state. Moreover, some of the injuries on his body had already been healed by Xiao Yan. Hence, all he could do now was to quietly wait for He Yan to recover. Xiao Yan meditated for a moment to recover. After which, he took out a palm-sized jade bottle from his sleeve. He placed it on the ground in front of him and observed it for a moment. A thought passed through his mind and an extremely powerful spiritual strength surged out from between Xiao Yan's brows. The spiritual strength agglomerated into a huge fist in the air above Xiao Yan's head. It vaguely emitted a majestic aura fluctuation that shook the surrounding space until it was repeatedly distorted. Following an ear-piercing sonic boom, the enormous spiritual fist that was agglomerated from Xiao Yan's spiritual strength instantly shot toward the jade bottle containing Yuan Qing's spiritual essence. It left behind a large vacuum in the air as it carried an incomparably hot wind as it smashed toward the jade bottle where Yuan Qing was located. If the punch landed, Yuan Qing, who was in a deep slumber, would definitely be destroyed along with the jade bottle. Not even a trace of his aura would remain. Amidst a soft muffled sound that sounded like a balloon bursting, the huge spiritual fist that was only an inch away from the jade bottle suddenly burst apart with a bang. A circle of invisible ripples spread out, causing the jade bottle that was standing on the ground to continuously sway left and right. Finally, it emitted a muffled sound and fell to the ground. Xiao Yan sat there and slowly shut his eyes. He did not even look at the jade bottle that contained Yuan Qing's spiritual essence. Instead, he circulated the flame mantra chi method within his body and began to train with an expressionless face. While Xiao Yan was quietly training in the outside world, Yuan Qing's spiritual essence, which had shrunk by an unknown number of times, was within the jade bottle at this moment. His entire body was trembling intensely. Earlier, Yuan Qing had looked at Xiao Yan's tall and mighty figure through the jade bottle. In the end, his eyes met Xiao Yan's as if he wanted to see through Xiao Yan's eyes. However, in the next moment, Xiao Yan's empty eyes suddenly changed. A sharp streak of light shot out from Xiao Yan's eyes, severing Yuan Qing's probing gaze. At that moment, Yuan Qing clearly sensed a powerful aura from Xiao Yan's body that was similar to that of an ancient dragon. The pressure was so great that Yuan Qing felt like he was about to suffocate. Only then did it suddenly disperse. Yuan Qing's face was filled with shock. His face, which had been no different from a regular person's, was now pale white. If it wasn't for the fact that his body was trembling violently, indicating that he was a living person, anyone who saw him would have thought that he was a dead person at first glance. The eyes of the old flame demon ghost revealed a rich horror. His entire body revealed a tired feeling because of that attack from Xiao Yan earlier. Naturally, he understood that Xiao Yan's attack earlier was only a probe. It would not actually kill him. However, from the pulses of energy that Yuan Qing had sensed from the attack earlier, it was impossible for him to survive even if he used his full strength. As a result, Yuan Qing understood even more clearly that the threat was probably heavier than a probe. Yuan Qing once again looked through the jade bottle at Xiao Yan, who was training cross-legged in the outside world. The thoughts in his heart swiftly changed. From Xiao Yan's words earlier, he could guess that Xiao Yan should be a member of the younger generation who had just come out from some hidden large faction to train. He possessed such extraordinary strength at such a young age, coupled with Xiao Yan's vicious and tough methods, his determination, and the mysterious organization behind him. With all these factors added together, Xiao Yan would definitely become an exceptional expert whose name would shake the entire continent in the future as long as nothing unexpected happened. Even if he did not reach that level, he would definitely be an extremely powerful expert whose name would shake the entire continent. If Yuan Qing could establish a good relationship with such a person, it would be extremely beneficial to the increase of his strength in the future. However, from the looks of things, it seemed like Xiao Yan had already seen through his little scheme earlier. It was already good enough that Xiao Yan did not kill him. How could Yuan Qing think about how to deal with Xiao Yan? Moreover, Xiao Yan had saved his life earlier. As a result, Yuan Qing finally carefully emerged from the palm-sized jade bottle after thinking for a long while. Yuan Qing's body, which had originally solidified in the jade bottle, became illusory once again after appearing. However, he did not care about this at all. Instead, he stood to the side and watched Xiao Yan, who was still training. Following Xiao Yan's repeated training, the Do Chi space, which appeared somewhat empty due to his recent advancement, once again became slightly filled. Pure Do Chi was repeatedly condensed and compressed within his body. After which, it was purified and refined by the heavenly flame before finally returning to the Do Chi space in the middle of the vortex. Xiao Yan finally opened his clear eyes at this moment. A hot flame glow was emitted from his eyes before it immediately fled into empty space and disappeared. Yuan Qing's face was filled with an earnest smile as he looked at Xiao Yan, who had stood up. His illusionary figure stepped forward and cupped his hands together. He bowed to Xiao Yan and said, "Thank you, friend Xiao Yan, for saving my life today. The old me was disrespectful earlier and offended you. I hope that friend Xiao Yan will not take it to heart." Before Xiao Yan could react, Yuan Qing continued, "I also have a Do skill that can be considered quite good. It is the Do skill that I am famous for. Moreover, from the effects of this Do skill, I can say without hesitation that there may not be more than a few Do skills on the entire continent that have similar effects. Therefore, I hope that friend Xiao Yan will not be angry on account of this item. If friend Xiao Yan is dissatisfied with this Do skill, I will first swear here today that I will definitely find a Do skill that will satisfy you. I wonder if friend Xiao Yan is satisfied with my apology." A prideful expression suddenly appeared on Yuan Qing's face when he mentioned the 9 transformation body formula. However, a careful and respectful attitude once again surfaced on his face when he looked at Xiao Yan. He moved forward with both hands and handed the 9 transformation body formula that he had already prepared to Xiao Yan. It was as if he was afraid that he would anger Xiao Yan and cause him to kill him. However, Xiao Yan could also feel a trace of flattery from Yuan Qing's respectful attitude. Xiao Yan nodded in his heart when he saw this. Yuan Qing was able to pick up and let go. Right was right and wrong was wrong. He was also able to take the initiative to apologize for his previous actions. It seemed that he was worthy of forgiveness. Moreover, this person definitely had a faction behind him that might be able to help him. Therefore, Xiao Yan had already forgiven him in his heart. However, Xiao Yan was slightly stunned when he heard Yuan Qing's words. This old man, don't tell me that he really thinks that I am a member of the younger generation that came out to train from some large faction." After Yuan Qing finished speaking, Xiao Yan's expression remained indifferent. However, he was cursing in his heart. He did not even extend his hand to take the 9 transformation body formula that Yuan Qing handed over. He simply stared at Yuan Qing until his face trembled. When Xiao Yan finally reacted, he forcefully resisted the urge to laugh. He expressionlessly extended his hand and swiftly placed the 9 transformation body formula that he had been looking forward to together with the items in the space that Xiao Yan had opened up. Chapter 15. By the time Xiao Yan reacted, he forcefully resisted the urge to laugh. His face was expressionless as he extended his hand and swiftly placed the 9 transformation body skill that he had been looking forward to with the things in the space that Xiao Yan had created. The corner of Yuan Qing's mouth twitched wildly. This fellow, there were countless people who wanted to obtain this Qi method of his. Many people had taken out Qi methods and Do skills that caused him to be extremely tempted to exchange for it. However, they had all returned empty-handed in the end. Some people had even ambushed Yuan Qing and wanted to forcefully snatch it away. However, the end result was that they had died in his hands. Some of those who had managed to escape were later chased and killed by the faction behind Yuan Qing. This was why Yuan Qing possessed such a nature-defying Do skill, but no one dared to snatch it from him. Now, however, Yuan Qing had forcefully endured the unwillingness in his heart and gave the Do technique that he was most proud of to Xiao Yan for the sake of his future strength and for the sake of forming a good relationship with a strong person. However, from the looks of Xiao Yan's attitude, it was clear that he looked down on the Do technique that Yuan Qing was most proud of. Yuan Qing sighed softly in his heart. The members of a large faction were indeed different. The thing that made him famous was merely so in the eyes of others. The gaze that Yuan Qing used to look at Xiao Yan also dimmed slightly. His originally illusionary body had become even more illusory. It seemed that he was not fated to be with Xiao Yan. KK, how can a genius with an unlimited future be someone that a weak old man like me can casually associate with? Yuan Qing's heart became increasingly dispirited the more he thought about it. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, suddenly looked at Yuan Qing with a strange expression at this moment. More accurately speaking, it should be Yuan Qing's body that had become increasingly illusory. Adding Yuan Qing's dispirited expression, Xiao Yan appeared even more puzzled. Xiao Yan frowned and glanced at Yuan Qing a couple of times. After which, he could not help but curiously ask. His finger pointed at Yuan Qing's body as he asked Yuan Qing with a serious expression. "Old brother Yuan Qing, may I know what is going on with you?" Xiao Yan's words woke Yuan Qing up from his stupor. Just a moment ago, Yuan Qing was still sighing to himself, but in the next moment, he was awakened by Xiao Yan's words. Yuan Qing quickly picked up the jade bottle on the ground and withdrew his soul force. Yuan Qing turned into a flash of light and disappeared into the jade bottle. Soon after, Yuan Qing's voice suddenly appeared in Xiao Yan's mind. Yuan Qing's voice was somewhat apologetic as he said, "Fellow Xiao Yan, I am currently unable to reveal myself and chat with you because of the de-essence in this world. If I have neglected you in any way, I hope that fellow Xiao Yan will not mind. Once the old me recovers my physical body, I will definitely reward you greatly. However, for now, the old me can only apologize to you." Xiao Yan frowned when he heard that. What did the crumbling of the soul origin have to do with the emperor's essence? Yuan Qing appeared to have seen Xiao Yan's tightly knit eyebrows. Hence, Yuan Qing's old voice once again sounded in Xiao Yan's mind. Yuan Qing laughed as he explained to Xiao Yan, "KK, it seems that fellow Xiao Yan has only focused on raising his strength in the past. He seldom goes to the book collection room to read some books and scrolls regarding the continent. KK, allow the old me to help fellow Xiao Yan clear up his doubts." The words in Yuan Qing's mouth suddenly paused when he spoke until this point. The eyes of the shrunken version of Yuan Qing within the jade bottle also dimmed slightly. He sighed and raised his head to look at Xiao Yan in the outside world. His eyes actually made contact with Xiao Yan's doubtful eyes. Yuan Qing looked at Xiao Yan without any light in his eyes as he mumbled to himself in a low voice, "If I was strong enough, why would I be so afraid of my soul origin leaving my body? If I was strong enough, why would I still be unable to cultivate the 9-body transformation mantra to the peak after so many years? The foundation of everything is still strength." Yuan Qing let out a sorrowful sigh. After which, he said to Xiao Yan, "I'm sorry friend Xiao Yan, but the reason why my spirit essence will scatter is related to my strength. On the continent, if anyone who has yet to reach the origin transformation stage is unable to find a new physical body after their physical body dies and their spirit essence leaves their body, their spirit essence will gradually merge with the Genesis Chi of the world and disappear from this world. Unless an origin transformation expert is able to gather the Genesis Chi of the world for their own use and maintain the consumption of their spirit essence, they will disappear from this world regardless of what methods they have or how powerful an expert is protecting them. This is because this is the rule of this world. This was the law of the world. No one could violate this law, no one could surpass this boundary, and no one could change the great Dao of the world. This was because every single person born on the continent had already adapted to the continent before they were born, following the law of the world. This was the law of the continent. Everyone below the origin transformation stage was an ant. For those below the origin transformation stage, their bodies had yet to truly fuse with the Genesis Chi of the universe, so they would more or less reject the Genesis Chi. When the Genesis Chi came into contact with the soul origin was the part of the body that came into contact with the Genesis Chi the most. Hence, it was the easiest for the soul origin to fuse with the Genesis Chi and dissipate. Once the soul origin came into contact with the Genesis Chi, it would fuse with the Genesis Chi. In the end, the soul origin would be carried away by the Genesis Chi of the universe and scattered across the world, unable to be gathered back together. If one wanted to preserve the soul origin, there was only one method. On the continent, there was a type of stone known as the spirit injection stone. This type of spirit injection stone was extremely useful for cultivators below the origin transformation stage. It was the only type of stone that could help cultivators below the origin transformation stage stabilize their soul origin and prevent it from dissipating. The spirit injection stone, as its name implied, was a type of stone that contained pure energy of the world. Moreover, it could resist the Genesis Chi of the universe and aid in one's cultivation. This type of spirit injection stone contained extremely pure and dense innate spirit Chi. However, because this innate spirit injection stone was a spirit injection stone, it could only contain innate spirit Chi of the universe. Thus, Genesis Chi of the universe could not be mixed into it. This was unless the spirit injection stone was damaged, causing the innate spirit Chi within to dissipate, causing the spirit Chi of the universe to scatter in all directions. In the end, it would become a useless stone. However, if the innate spirit injection stone was properly used before the innate spirit injection stone completely dissipated, some of it could be recovered. As a result, the spirit injection stone was very popular on the market. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. There were quite a few people below the origin transformation stage, who knew how many people faced the danger of their soul origin dissipating every day. As a result, whenever a spirit injection stone appeared on the market, it would attract countless experts below the origin transformation stage who would frantically purchase it. This was not because spirit infusion stones were rare, but because most of the spirit infusion stones had already been purchased by those big forces. Only a small amount could appear on the market. Therefore, as long as spirit infusion stones appeared, they would usually be auctioned in some grand auction. The reason why Yuan Qing's soul origin had not dissipated after so long was because of his strength. However, if Yuan Qing's soul origin remained outside for too long, it would affect his soul origin and cause his cultivation to stagnate. Of course, a part of this was due to the jade bottle on the ground. The palm-sized bottle was made from spirit injection stones, which was why Yuan Qing had entered the bottle the moment Xiao Yan had warned him. I see. No wonder you were in such a hurry to enter the jade bottle. But why don't you refine a body for yourself? Xiao Yan nodded as though he had come to a sudden understanding. After which, he continued to ask. The moment these words left his mouth, Yuan Qing's entire body appeared to have cramped in an instant. Yuan Qing forced himself to calm down. Only then did he ask with some anticipation, according to what fellow Xiao Yan has said, fellow Xiao Yan knows how to refine a body. Xiao Yan was speechless. His eyelids twitched slightly. Only then did he look at Yuan Qing strangely. Brother Yuan Qing, don't tell me you don't even have such a low-level method. A strange expression appeared on Xiao Yan's face when he heard that. However, he immediately realized that his tone was off, so he smiled sheepishly. Yuan Qing's mouth twitched when he heard that. Is Xiao Yan really out to gain experience? He's clearly out to deal a blow to me. Yuan Qing quietly sighed in his heart before explaining to Xiao Yan. Refining a body is a matter of life and death. Anyone who knows how to refine a body has already been taken away by the upper echelons of large organizations. Apart from a few powerful seniors who don't want to be controlled by others, there are only a few people who only know a little about refining a body. Moreover, not everyone has the secret technique of refining a body. Most of them are in large organizations or ancient clans. Outsiders have no chance of obtaining it. Yuan Qing's face was filled with envy as he spoke. However, Xiao Yan was speechless for a long while. This method of refining one's physical body was a low-level secret technique that anyone with a little strength would know in the Doqi continent. However, he couldn't even find a single one here. Tisk tisk, looks like I've come to a barren land. Xiao Yan was still lamenting when Yuan Qing continued to speak. This isn't because the secret technique of refining a body is rare. Instead, it's because our strength is still too weak. Given our level of strength, we are only at the bottom in the eyes of others. They don't even bother to help us refine a body. Since some of them aren't as strong as us, but they know how to refine a body, just this point alone is enough for them to look down on many people of the same level as them. Xiao Yan originally thought that the strength of these people was merely so-so. However, when Xiao Yan heard that people like them were merely ants, his heart was slightly startled. The strength of a Dode was merely so-so. A Dode was merely an existence at the bottom. Yet, even a Dode was merely an existence at the bottom. Just how frightening would the peak existences on this continent be? Xiao Yan felt a wave of perspiration just thinking about it in his heart. It was unexpected that this foreign world continent was actually so strong. Xiao Yan recalled the words that the old flame demon ghost had said to him. He had waited for him here for 10 years. Moreover, he had been waiting for him. However, this was also the first time that Xiao Yan had come to this place. How could he know anyone? Even if it was Han Tiandi, he had already died. How could those people find him? It seems that he would have to return to the days of training alone in the past. However, it is just as well. Xiao Yan considered everything that had happened today in his heart. After which, he nodded violently. His eyes were filled with determination. Xiao Yan used the various materials that he originally had to refine a physical body for Yuan Qing during this period of time. Yuan Qing also knew that Xiao Yan wanted to do something else. Hence, he quickly left after getting used to this new physical body. He left the remaining time for Xiao Yan alone.